What was the national response in the early days of the outbreak? According to our next guest, there was none. Senator Chris Murphy introduced a Senate bill that would end the bidding war between states and put the federal government in charge of the medical supply chain. And Senator Murphy joins us now. Senator, you're giving an alarming account of the first days of the response. It appears we're still in those first days. I mean, we don't have testing, and we've got an onslaught of surges hitting hospitals around the country. It appears we are flat-footed without an ability to see what's coming.
What is shocking to me today is that there is nothing different than what was happening in early February when the administration was refusing to take this crisis seriously. There was no national response in early February, and there is no national response today, other than the 3 pieces of legislation passed by the Congress. And the most egregious lack of federal response comes on this issue of personal protective equipment, ventilators, and tests. It is Lord of the Flies out there right now. As Governor Cuomo said yesterday, it's like eBay for states and hospitals. They all go online every single day to try to bid on a ventilator, and they run up the price, and the ventilator ends up going to who can pay the most, not where it is needed the most. And so we've put in legislation that I hope Congress will take up soon that will require the president to federalize the manufacture and the distribution of medical equipment, because right now the equipment isn't being made. And even when it's being made, it's not ending up in the places that need it. This is a core responsibility of the federal government during a crisis like this. And from what we understand, the only reason the president isn't doing this is because industry loves the fact that they are able to profiteer. They are able to make tons of money off of Governor Cuomo and Governor Lamont and others who are bidding up the prices on these scarce supplies.
So is that what's driving the president's decision-making processes? I mean, what would argue that he's not? Is this about money? Why wouldn't he just start using his power to streamline the entire process of getting supplies and getting testing in place?
So there's been reporting, and I believe it, that the Chamber of Commerce, the National Chamber of Commerce, and industry groups have been lobbying the president heavily to not take control of the manufacturing and supply chain. And the reason is clear, because right now they are in a catbird's position. They are able to make a lot of money when all these hospitals and states are bidding against each other. Now, there's also the matter of an ideological resistance in this administration to, any federal intervention in the marketplace. Early on, my sense was that the Trump administration just didn't think it was their responsibility to manage a crisis like this. They just didn't believe in the legitimacy of the federal government. And I don't think anything has changed. Secretary Azar goes on TV and says, listen, it's not the federal government's job to help states get personal protective equipment. That's states' jobs. That's hospitals' job. No, it isn't. You cannot solve this problem one state at a time. You have to have a national response, and there continues to be no federal strategy from this administration to confront this crisis.
Hey, Senator Murphy, it's Willie Geist. Good to see you this morning. You've been sort of metaphorically waving your arms about the coronavirus crisis for at least a couple of months now. In particular, you came out of a briefing with the administration about coronavirus on February the 5th, one you called chilling. You said the administration was not taking this seriously enough. Can you shed some light about what you heard inside that room and why you found it chilling?
Yeah, so I sent out a statement on February 5th, right after I had left a private briefing that all senators attended with the administration, because it was so clear to me at that moment that the administration had no concept of the size of the response needed should coronavirus ravage the country in the way that it has today. At that time in early February, there were only a handful of cases. But inside that room, senators were privately begging the administration to request emergency funding from Congress, and specifically for supplies. In early February, we were telling the administration, we don't have the supplies necessary to be able to keep people alive if coronavirus hits us like it hit China. And the answer from the administration in early February was, we don't need any more money. We can handle it with the resources that we have. And their response really has never changed. We've passed 3 pieces of legislation. We've put trillions of dollars into this fight. But all of that has been at the initiative of Congress. The administration initially asked for $1 billion. That's all they thought they needed. Finally, after they finally came to their senses that they couldn't do with existing resources, they have never been serious about this. They aren't serious about it today.
And Senator Murphy, as you look at, let's take today, we are where we are. We can look back at the past, and we have been for several months now, and many people will in the weeks and months to come. But here's where we are today on April the 1st with the new legislation you're proposing. What's the best case scenario right now to get this stuff into the hands of the hospitals? Because I think a lot of people watching at home go, guys, this is America. If that hospital needs a bunch of masks, get it to them today. What are we doing? So how do we streamline that? How do we do this better?
Well, right now, you have all of these governors and all of these hospitals essentially having to go out and create their own supply chains. So, my folks in Connecticut spend an awful lot of time chasing down leads. They hear about a manufacturer that might be offering to turn their production line over to masks. They hear about some foreign stockpile of gowns that they might be able to bring in on a ship. That is wasted effort on a state-by-state basis. And so the federal government needs to take control of all of that and then require manufacturers to start making it. You had these workers at the GE plant walk out because they were so upset that their plant wasn't converting to ventilator production. Well, the federal government should be requiring that. And so I believe that if the Trump administration says, listen, we're going to set nationwide goals for masks, for gowns, for tests, and for ventilators, and then we are going to decide who gets them to make sure that the places of high need get them first, we could probably solve this shortage problem within a matter of days or weeks. But the administration still refuses to do that, reportedly because they are more interested in guaranteeing profits for their industry friends than they are in saving lives.
Senator Chris Murphy, thank you very much for coming on this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.